What's up, guys? No cold open tonight. Another one of these unplanned live streams, but shoot, it's just been too much news. We will have our regular weekly live stream tomorrow, and we will have, I'm sure, at least one and probably several guests to talk about all the things that happened in Lansing today, including the election of Pete Hoekstra for state party chair. He was not my first choice, but not my last. We'll talk about that probably more tomorrow. Maybe if time allows, we'll get into that tonight. But the reason why I decided to go live tonight is because I think there's just too much stuff to have in one stream. And in particular, we have a brand new lawsuit initiated against Kristina Karamo for posing as chair of the Michigan Republican Party. So we will go through that in just a moment. And we also have a very, very, very snark-laden letter from the NRCC, which is the National Republican Congressional Committee, addressed to Dan Hartman, the former general counsel for the Michigan Republican Party. And between all of that and, of course, today's events with Pete Hoekstra, and also, by the way, former U.S. Representative Michael Bishop appointed as party general counsel. There's a lot to talk about. So we will have a proper stream tomorrow night. But first, welcome, everybody. Welcome those of you watching on Rumble. I am seeing the Rumble chats. I usually have, unfortunately, neglected Rumble sometimes here and there, but I do see folks in the chat. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. We are going to have some fun reading some lawsuits right now. But first, let's go to this. Let's do this letter first. And I know a lot of people want to talk about what's going on, what happened in Lansing today, but I feel like I have to handle these things in chronological order. And this came out yesterday. This was in the media, and this is a letter from the National Republican Congressional Committee, which is one of the big national Republican organizations. Their job is to elect Republicans to Congress, to the House of Representatives. There's also the NRCC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Their job is to elect Republicans to the U.S. Senate. There's also the Republican Attorneys General Association. There's also the Republican Governors Association. And I think there's one other one for state leadership or something. Anyway, this is a letter, undated, curiously, but reported in the media yesterday. So I would assume sent yesterday. I am not thrilled about it being addressed to Daniel J. Hartman as MRP General Counsel, but because he's no longer that. But I think this letter is to make a point, to perhaps foreshadow a bit about where things are going for Kristina Karamo with respect to the national Republicans. Because one thing we have not heard yet, we have not heard from the RNC on our whole fight going on at the state party. Something interesting came up today, by the way. And I don't want to get too much into the Pete Hoekstra elections. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But Vance Patrick, he was the candidate eliminated in the first round. Unfortunately, he was my guy. I supported him. We'll talk more about Vance tomorrow. But after he was eliminated, he gave a statement to the group, and he said, I've gotten a contact from someone who lives at Mar-a-Lago, and they would like me to support Pete Hoekstra, so I'm going to support Pete Hoekstra. I had completely forgotten about this, but at some point, Donald Trump may weigh in on this. And my suspicion is that day will probably be Wednesday. Why do I think Wednesday? Because Tuesday is the New Hampshire primary, and Trump is busy right now. But that's the last thing for a while in the presidential nomination calendar. So we might be hearing from President Trump about this stuff soon. Anyway, this letter is the first national anything that's gotten into the issue of who is actually in charge of the state party. And I guess by appearances, the NRCC is acknowledging Daniel Hartman as the general counsel of the state party. But then again, as we get into what this letter actually says, I'm not sure that's what they're really doing here. But let's, I mean, if he's not the general counsel because he was removed on January 6th, they didn't have one until today. Now it's Mike Bishop. But anyway, this letter was sent yesterday. Jonathan Chapman says, howdy. Hello, Jonathan. Good to see you today, and good to see you in our chat again. We are just having some fun reading some legal documents today. This is from Erin Clark, who is the general counsel for the National Republican Congressional Committee. Let's hear what she has to say to Daniel J. Hartman in this undated letter, but was probably put out today or yesterday. Well, definitely yesterday, because it was in the media yesterday. So here's what it says. Mr. Hartman. Oh, subject. Regarding joint fundraising agreements with MIGOP. Mr. Hartman, thank you for confirming receipt of $263,000 in federal funds from Protect the House 2024, PTH, to the Michigan Republican Party State Central Committee federal account, State Party federal account. I appreciate you directing your client, the Kristina, to hold on to the funds while I request the opportunity to appear in front of MIGOP's budget subcommittee to make our case. It's just the budget committee, but that's okay. Surely, as general counsel for the MIGOP, you of all people understand that it defies logic to use these limited federal funds for exorbitant speakers' fees and plush conferences when such expenses can be legally paid for with state funds in a state that allows unlimited individual and in some cases corporate contributions. So what is Erin Clark getting at here? Well, it's real simple. The NRCC gave the state party, Kristina Karamo, money to support federal candidates. And because those funds are federally regulated, they're saying it's crazy you would spend this money on something else because you can raise all the money in the world you want for the state party, for state sources, but yet it appears you have used the $263,000 we gave you to help keep the U.S. House of Representatives in Republican majority. It looks like you spent that at the state level, which is weird because the federal money is much more regulated and you can't get that back. So let's go through this a little further and then we'll tie this all together. Protect the House was a joint fundraising committee comprised of federal campaign committees, PACs, federal party committees, and state party committees with federal accounts. All funds raised through Protect the House are federal funds, subject to stringent amount limitations and source prohibitions as outlined in federal law. Unlike MIGOP state account, which may receive unlimited contributions from legal sources, but just kind of hasn't lately, MIGOP's federal account may only, missing word, I believe, receive $10,000 per year from individuals and non-candidate PACs and $5,000 a year from multi-candidate PACs. So they're saying, we're giving you a big pile of money that is hard to raise because you can't just get some one billionaire to write you a big $263,000 check. It has to come from donors with contribution limits. But we've gotten people that have committed to raising the money for these federal campaigns. And here you go. This is for your congressional races. But while federal funds received by state party federal accounts through Protect the House cannot legally be earmarked for any particular candidate or use, and contractually is up to each committee's sole discretion to determine how to best use its share of the net proceeds, I hope the budget subcommittee will keep in mind, as if the budget committee had anything to do with how Kristina Karamo chooses to spend money. Well, keep in mind that federal law prohibits the use of non-federal funds in connection with federal elections, meaning, spelling this out, because Dan Hartman needs it spelled out for him, meaning these federal funds and only federal funds may be used in connection with the with the U.S. House and Senate races in your state. The state party must use these limited federal funds to make contributions to federal candidates, to make coordinated party expenditures, or to engage in exempt party activities such as volunteer mail. Lauren Turner says, I don't know if you've seen Kristina's response on this today. I've seen what's on what some people have posted on X. If there's something more detailed than that, let me know. But yes, we will get to that. The state party must use these limited federal funds to make contributions to federal candidates, to make coordinated party expenditures, and engage in exempt party activities such as volunteer mail. I just read that. The MIGOP may take advantage of its unlimited state party funds for most other expenses it incurs, including operational and event expenses. In short, the state party is being asked to reserve federal funds for the benefit of federal candidates. Imagine that. The NRCC, whose job is to elect Republicans, expects their donors' money to be spent faithfully. In fact, here we go. It's important to keep in mind that the donors whose federal funds you hold gave to an entity called Protect the House. Their expectation was that those federal funds would be used to protect Republicans' majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. And as donor-driven organizations, we must always strive, first and foremost, to be good stewards of their funds. If donors do not think that their federal funds are being well managed by the MIGOP, it is certainly possible that the state party will be excluded from their generosity in the future. Well, not to worry. Kristina Karamo has been fired. I will not deny. This is all just icing at this point. We will not deny that we are growing increasingly alarmed by reports that the MIGOP is in dire financial straits and grossly mismanaging their limited funds. That while already deeply in debt, they took out a 6-figure loan to pay actor Jim Caviezel to speak at the Mackinac Island conference. That their debt has grown to over $500,000 with little action taken to pay it back. Perhaps most concerning for our purposes is the fact that the party inexplicably paid for the Mackinac Island conference from its federal account instead of its administrative account, which can accept unlimited and undisclosed corporate contributions. And guys, this is, you have to understand how bizarre this is. I'm the executive director of my county party. We get funds from multiple different donors, and sometimes those funds are kind of hard to track. Like, selling buttons at the fair. It's hard to get someone to fill out a lengthy form that asks for their occupation and employer to sell them a button. So what do you do with that money? It's simple. You put it in the administrative account, because the only money you have to report is money that's being spent on political campaigns, political purposes. If the money is purely spent on, general stuff, you can put it in the administrative account, money that's not being spent on campaigns. So the point being, some donors like to have privacy. And so, and some donors like to give more than what the law allows them to give for campaigns. And they can to the administrative account. So what you would never, ever want to do is to take money out of the administrative account. To take money out of a political account to spend on administrative stuff. Because the administrative account is the one that's easier for people to give to. The political account's hard. It's regulated. So that's what they're saying here. It's insane that you spent federal campaign dollars to pay for the Mackinac conference when you can spend unlimited secret dollars to pay for the Mackinac conference. Unflippin' believable. So they say, these do not seem to be the actions of a state party that adheres to conservative principles, or frankly, one that has the desire to, or ability, the desire, ding, 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 to elect Republicans to office. I certainly hope that your response will prove to us otherwise. Sincerely, Aaron Clark, General Counsel, NRCC. Well, maybe there is something more detailed. And I don't know if folks in the chat, if you have this, by all means, if you have exactly what Kristina sent back to them, that would be lovely. Otherwise, I only have this, which is from what's going on here? What just happened? Okay, there's my window. Sorry. This is from a reporter for MLive. Karamo reportedly told the NRCC she will not comply with a request. Oh, hold on. Whoops. This is it's on the screen there. Yeah. Will not comply with a request to help John James win re-election in Michigan's 10th district. According to an email from Karamo's communications director, that's weird. I thought Samantha Strayer was Kristina's communications director. Whatever. He wrote Karamo, quote, would not be used to launder money for the anti-Trump crowd. Now, a couple of things here to this point. First off, I joked on X, she's trying to win me back because I can't stand John James. Every time Mike Johnson opens his mouth to swear allegiance to a foreign country, which is most of the things he does when he, Mike Johnson, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Every time House Speaker Mike Johnson opens his mouth to swear allegiance to a foreign country, which is what he usually does when he opens his mouth, I'm reminded of how disgraceful John James's vote against against Jim Jordan for Speaker was. And I hope to do the maximum amount of political damage to John James possible over that. However, that's not what the Michigan Republican Party's job is, and that's certainly not what the NRCC's job is. And I have said this before. I will say it again right now. When I wear my Rescue Michigan hat, I'll be happy to beat up on rhinos any time and place and manner. When I'm wearing my Washington County Republican Party hat, no, you can't do that. That is dishonorable to your donors, in my humble opinion. You were elected to be a chair of a state party or a county party or whatever role any of you guys watching might be serving under to elect Republicans. And if your heart says, I can't support so-and-so because they're a rhino, then that's not the job for you. And that's the way that goes. To me, it's dishonorable. If your job is to elect Republicans, you can't say, no, you don't pass my purity test. But that's exactly what this is. And by the way, also, the other thing too is notice how carelessly they hurl these accusations. He wrote, Karamo, quote, would not be used to launder money. Launder money? Launder money. The NRCC collected money. They had to report those contributions. That's not laundering money. That's a completely above board legal method of supporting campaigns. It's all about narrative. They don't care. They don't care if they're hurling criminal accusations left, right, and center. Lauren Turner says, we were just told the whole COPUS loan was paid off, and there could only have been about $35,000 in the accounts before the PAC money came in. Yeah. I mean, it's all one big web of lies. It's all coming apart. And that's what that letter is really all about, is saying, you're claiming that you raised money and that everything's good, but actually what you do is you stole our money. Because we gave you this money with the understanding that you're going to use it to support federal campaigns, because you have to. Maybe not legally, certainly ethically they do. But ethics is it's not a thing in Kristina's mind or any of her any of her cult members. Anyway, Jason Mickelborg says District 4 is purity testing. They're insane. Yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, so that was I think the first of multiple things we're going to be seeing coming from the National Party. It's been kind of a painful silence since January 6th, but I think that silence is about to be cleared up very, very quickly. So we'll see. My prediction is Wednesday. Anyway, now let's talk about the lawsuit. And by the way, for those who've come in, because I've seen the numbers kind of go up as we've been doing this, I'm not going to talk too much tonight about what happened at the state committee meeting today, because we're going to cover that in much more detail and depth on tomorrow's show. But I cannot help myself when I get a copy of a new legal document, and I couldn't wait any longer. And I figured we're going to have a really big show tomorrow anyway. Let's just get into this lawsuit, and we'll talk about this. By the way, there's apparently another lawsuit also filed this past week, so maybe I'll have that by tomorrow. I don't have it yet, but apparently Kelly Sackett, the chair of the Kalamazoo County GOP, has filed a suit against Kristina on something else. So we will cover that if possible tomorrow, and we'll have more guests on tomorrow night too, and people that were there, and it'll be a more of a wholesome panel show than it was just me ranting and raving. But thank you guys for joining me tonight as we talk about this this current suit. So let's look at this. This was filed, I believe, on Friday. And let me just pull this up here. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. Here we are. State of Michigan, Kent County Circuit Court. Melinda Pago, state party co-chair. Ali Hussein, a vice chair. Hassan Naimi, vice chair. Ann Delisle, a district chair. Jessica Bearfield, I think a county party executive director, and I believe the state committee member as well. Norm Schinkel, state committee member, and Warren Carpenter, who I think was a former district chair until earlier this year. Versus Kristina Karamo, defendant. Now, it makes you wonder, will Dan Hartman work for her pro bono? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Attorneys in the case, Warner, Norcross, and Judd, big law firm, by Jonathan Lauterbach. Where have I heard that name before? Jonathan Lauterbach. I've just heard that name recently. Oh, that's right. He was the attorney in the Hillsdale case that got Kristina sanctioned. Wonder if that's going to come up in this suit. I guess we'll see. Verified complaint for declaratory and injunctive relief. So here we go. This is, how many pages is this, by the way? I closed my window. I don't know. It's not going to be too long. Michigan Republican State Committee is the governing body of the Republican Party in Michigan. The governance of the committee and the duties of its members and officers is defined by its bylaws. The bylaws. Bylaws are akin to a contract among the members of the committee. They are not mere suggestions that can be disregarded at the convenience of any member or officer. What they're setting up here. Plaintiffs are members of the committee and the Republican Party. On January 6, 2024, the committee had a special meeting in accordance with its bylaws. At that meeting, a quorum of the committee voted to remove defendant Kristina Karamo as chair of the committee. Since that date, Ms. Karamo has refused to acknowledge the vote and step aside. Worse yet, she has brazenly and repeatedly asserted that she continues to occupy the role of chair of the committee, causing significant confusion among elected precinct delegates and the county Republican organizations throughout Michigan, who rely on guidance from the committee on matters of critical importance to our state and country, not the least of which are the imminent presidential primary and county and congressional district Republican conventions. Jason says, bylaws? You need bylaws? Yeah, there are these things, and you have to follow them. Plaintiffs, therefore, seek this court's intervention to uphold the rule of law and provide declaratory injunctive relief consistent with the bylaws. And accordingly, state as far it follows. Parties, jurisdiction, and venue. Oh, the venue. The venue is Kent County. Now, if I were Kristina Karamo, I'd have wished this was filed in Ingham County. Because if there's anyone who's going to save Kristina's butt, it'd be a liberal judge who wants her to stay in that chairman's seat. But it's not filed in Ingham County. It's filed in Kent County. How's it filed in Kent County anyway? Ms. Karamo is a citizen and resident of the state of Michigan and county of Oakland. As noted above, Ms. Karamo once served as chair of the committee. Ouch. This court has personal jurisdiction over Ms. Karamo pursuant to MCL 600.701. This court has jurisdiction over the subject matter of this action pursuant to MCL 600.605. On February 23rd, 2023, Ms. Karamo was elected as chair of the committee. Shortly thereafter, she changed the official address of the committee to a location in the state of Michigan and county of Kent, 3450 Alpine Avenue, Northwest, Box 206. It's a UPS store, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Ms. Karamo conducts business in Kent County by establishing the committee's banking relationships there, using the official address for FEC reporting, and continuously sending communications using the Kent County office address of the committee. Whoops. Venue is proper in Kent County pursuant to MCL 600.1621. General allegations. MCL 168.597. Michigan election law provides that as at its spring state convention, this blah, 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 they elected Kristina Karamo. We get that. Bylaws constitute a binding contractual agreement between an entity and its members. See Collins versus Upton, also Kaufman versus Chicago, stating the Constitution's rules and bylaws of the entity at issue constitute a contract by all members of the entity with each other and with the entity itself. Okay, this is, let me just make sure I'm right about this. Yes, this is the best part of this suit. This paragraph here, paragraph number 12, is an act of absolute legal genius. And I'm not even an attorney, and I'll tell you why I say that. Let me read this first. This case is justiciable because, one, its resolution calls upon the court to decide whether plaintiff's actions comply with the bylaws. Two, courts regularly deal with cases involving compliance with bylaws of private associations. And three, Ms. Karamo's failure to comply with the bylaws constitutes a breach of contract. And here we go. C, Hillsdale County Republican Executive Committee versus Darren Wisely et al. Opinion and order of the First Circuit Court of the County of Hillsdale, issued October 5th, 2023. And Pritchett Evans versus Republican Party of Kalamazoo et al. Opinion and order of the Ninth Circuit Court for the County of Kalamazoo, issued August 10th, 2023, finding the court did not have jurisdiction to decide the dispute where the plaintiffs did not specifically plead a violation of the organization's bylaws. Now, let me tell you why that is an absolutely brilliant piece of legal maneuvering right there. Because you have these cases, the Kalamazoo case and the Hillsdale case. And what's Kristina Karamo's cult's narrative going to be about these cases? They say, well, a judge in one case said that they could intervene in Hillsdale, and the judge in the other case said they couldn't intervene because it's a political question. And this is how they get ahead of that. By pointing out that in the Hillsdale case, they showed with specificity in their complaint that the party did not follow the bylaws. Whereas in the Kalamazoo case, they failed to show how the party did not follow the bylaws. So they're getting in front of the judge on this, so that Dan Hartman, if he's the one that ends up answering this, is going to come back and say, well, Your Honor, there's this Kalamazoo case that says that it's a political questions doctrine issue. Nope. Because guess what? We're alleging violations of bylaws. And in the Kalamazoo case, they didn't allege violations of bylaws. Jason says, oops, maybe politics isn't their thing. Maybe they should try to take over a VFW instead. Oh, yeah. By the way, that Kalamazoo case, you guys haven't seen this. It's very, very, very funny. Or the order, the order in the Kalamazoo case. Here's the order from Kalamazoo. The complaint was brought by plaintiffs Sabrina Pritchett Evans and Kimberly Harris against defendants Republican Party of Kalamazoo County and Kelly Sackett. KGOP is operated by the Kalamazoo County Republican Committee, of which Kelly Sackett has been chair for all applicable periods of this dispute. This case involves an intra-party political dispute concerning 1, the replacement of seats on the KCRC reserved for statutory members, 2, press releases, statements, and censure notices about plaintiffs made by defendants, and the removal of 17 precinct delegates. And then where is it? The thing I wanted to read here was, let's see here. Where is it? I think this might be it here coming up. Let's see. I'm not gonna take all night looking through this to find the thing I was looking for, but there was a bit about Joel Studebaker. Let's see if I can find it here. I might not be able to because it might. Oh, yeah, it is. Here we go. At the July 20th hearing, plaintiffs and defendants produced 1 expert witness each. Plaintiff's witness was Joel Studebaker, who until January 6th was the chief of staff of the Michigan Republican Party. Mr. Studebaker was not offered as an expert. He was presented to provide background information concerning recent historical events as described here and above. He also provided testimony concerning his expertise involved in local and state Republican Party politics. He acknowledged he was new to politics. Oh, really? So when Barack Obama was destroying our country, Joel Studebaker was, whatever. Having only been involved for the last few years. He had run for a delegate position in 2022 and was elected chair of the Ottawa County Republican Party in December of that same year. He testified that effective February 23, he was chief of staff for the state party. Defense witness stipulated to be an expert in the field of parliamentary procedure, Republican bylaws, and Republican Party history. His Republican Party experience spans almost 3 decades. His positions include Republican polling, data aggregation, and political consulting. He has been a precinct delegate for 26 years and chaired the most recent Republican state convention. Oh, is that all? Is that all David Deshaw did? Sounds like a little bit more of an expert than Joel Studebaker. In fact, there's no question that the experience and expertise of Mr. Deshaw was vastly superior to that of Mr. Studebaker. With this being said, there were some areas of agreement. Anyway, I just found that hilarious. But anyway, that's what this case is going to be all about. It's violating the bylaws. Were the bylaws violated or were they not? Only a matter of months into her election as chair of the committee in February of 2023, Ms. Karamo began to face criticism for her divisive and ineffective leadership of the Michigan Republican Party and failure to raise money for the Michigan Republican Party or pay down its debts. Jason says Deshaw destroyed Studebaker. It was great. I wish I could have been there. Hey, look who's there. Shane, how you doing, buddy?
Nice to see ya.
We are just having some fun reading through a lawsuit here. This is a lawsuit filed against Kristina Karamo herself. Have you read this yet?
I have not. I have just heard about it, so news to me.
I don't want to. I don't want to reread the first 12 paragraphs, but except to go back to this bit here. This bit of legal beauty right here is in paragraph 12, where they cite this is a case brought by Warren Carpenter, brought by a number of people. Oh, hold on, I got to ban somebody. Hold on. There we go. Warren Carpenter, a bunch of vice chairs, co-chair, Melinda Pago, and some others. Anyway, the point being, this paragraph here is basically saying we're going to cite to the bylaws, and we're going to show they breached the bylaws. So they quote the Hillsdale County case and the Kalamazoo case. And the point being, the Hillsdale case, they won because they cited the bylaw violations. And in the Kalamazoo case, which remember, the Kalamazoo case, for those who don't know, effectively, I mean, they weren't actually a party of the case, but the plaintiffs in that case were like backed by Kristina Karamo. Like they filed an amicus brief against Kalamazoo County Chair. They were heavily involved in that case. And they lost because, as it turns out, the plaintiffs did not specifically plead a violation of the organization's bylaws. Whoops. So they got in front of this whole issue. This is a case about violating bylaws, and in Kalamazoo's case, they didn't even plead that the bylaws were violated, whereas in this case they did. Anyway, so here we are. So we're just reading through this now. Only a matter of months into her term as chair, she was being divisive and ineffective. In the face of mounting concerns with Ms. Karamo's reckless leadership of the committee, members of the committee chose to take actions available to them under the bylaws to remove Ms. Karamo as chair of the committee. Article 15 of the bylaws provides that, and then there's this bit about how you propose to amend bylaws. Now, I mean, honestly, I think the bigger issue, of course, is the removal. Because they amended the bylaws to get the threshold down from 75% to 60%. But they didn't even need to, it turns out. So
yeah, I think it was anticipated that Karamo would have her people show up to fight the vote, but instead they took the calculation to try to delegitimize the meeting. And what happened was they got way over the 75% threshold needed to oust her instead. So
yeah, that was a worry.
That backfired. Maybe not in the court of public opinion.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, if her people had only showed up, she would still be chair, but they didn't. So, whoops. Iceman 99 Turbo on YouTube says, "Is WC going to be on tomorrow night too?" I don't know what WC means. Iceman.
Warren Carpenter.
Oh, Warren Carpenter. I'm not sure. He may be. But we will have a show tomorrow night. I have not gotten confirmation Warren will be on, but he's certainly invited to be on. Anyway, but it's another reason why it's good to cover this tonight, because he is a party to this case. So he might not want to be on as we're talking about this case. But anyway, Haji 1954, who we may know who that is, says, "Good job, Shane and Adam. Thank you. You are welcome." Stephen Gothal says, "None of this is funny." Well, Stephen, I understand your point. It's not funny that we are in this place where lawsuits are being filed and this is all damaging to the party. But you have to enjoy life. And it is funny to see Kristina's, the incoming ruination from these lawsuits is in a certain way funny. And if you can't laugh in life, you're going to be miserable. So you got to, especially in politics, you got to look for the funny side of things. And if you don't, you're going to get burned out. You're going to be depressed. So if you can't find the humor in this, Stephen, I'm sorry, but you got to look for it.
You can either laugh or you can cry. So
yeah, exactly.
I guess laughing is better.
Yep. Anyway, so on November 4th, a member of the committee provided notice to all members of the committee, including the policy committee, of a proposal to amend the bylaws by reducing from 75% to 60% the requisite supermajority vote required to remove an officer. Exhibit 2, proposed bylaw amendment email. Request for a special meeting. Article 6B of the bylaws requires the chair to call a special meeting on written request of 1/3 of the members of the committee within 15 days after such written request has been filed with the chair. Upon failure of the chair to call a special meeting as provided in the bylaws, any member of the committee may call a special meeting by giving notice of the meeting 5 days before the meeting. Notice of a special meeting must state the purpose of the meeting. Robert's Rules, Section 9, special meetings. A written request for a special meeting was submitted to Ms. Karamo on December 2nd, 2023. The written request included the following purpose: transparency, accountability, unity, proposed bylaw amendments, review, and possible removal of Kristina Karamo, Dan Hartman, Robert Owens, and Jim Kopus. The proposed bylaw amendment was the amendment submitted on November 4th, described above, which had not yet been acted upon by the committee. Also, footnote, at that time, Mr. Hartman served as general counsel of the committee. As such, his removal is governed by Article 4G of the bylaws. Mr. Owens and Mr. Kopus served as employees or agents of the committee whose removal is not governed by the bylaws. So anyway, this is, I think, the key thing that this entire case is going to turn on is, did Kristina Karamo honor their meeting request by calling a meeting on the 13th of January that did not have the same number of the same agenda items? And
well, she blatantly didn't, and then waived the bylaws during the meeting, which was illegal. You can't just waive the rules during the meeting. There's a process that has to go into amending the bylaws. None of that process was followed. They did it on the fly just to have their PR victory, I guess. They could wave in front of the delegates and other people to say that we're the real leadership. So one side followed the rules, the other side didn't. It's that simple. Yeah.
They're like the Biden administration. They think this is all about messaging, and like messaging will somehow trump, the actual facts. Ask Ukraine how well winning the messaging war is going to turn out for them. On Rumble, Ionia GOP chair says, "I'm so glad this was filed. I was one of the parliamentarians on January 6th, and we followed every bylaw requirement. That January 13th removed me and 5 other state committee members by violating the bylaws numerous times." Yeah, the funny thing is, if this actually comes up like in like a trial or something, what they did in January 13th meeting was atrocious, and I think they're going to talk about that in this suit. But anyway, we'll get there. We're getting there, guys.
Also, I want to add that Todd Gilman, who was on the budget committee, there's a lot of people who resigned from the budget committee because they were worried that they might be liable for criminal acts or civil penalties for being on it. Todd Gilman stayed on it and blew the whistle on all the ridiculous and corrupt things that were happening. He was finally removed from the committee for being willing to speak out. So anyone who has spoken out or addressed concerns with the lack of transparency or the bizarre behavior that was going on with the Karamo administration, they were axed, they were removed, their questions were ignored, then they were demonized as part of a deep state conspiracy. So pretty
fortunately for Todd Gilman, who is here on Facebook, the meeting on the 13th was an illegal meeting, so who cares? But anyway, all right, let's get back to this suit. Ms. Karamo acknowledged receipt of the December 2nd special meeting request on the same day, immediately indicating that she did not approve of the meeting. Exhibit 4. On December 5th, Ms. Karamo again acknowledged receipt of the request for a special meeting, declaring that the special meeting called for on December 2nd was invalid, but she would nonetheless call for a special meeting in early January, though not for the purposes listed in the December 2nd, 2023 request. Then on December 16th, Ms. Karamo called for a special meeting to be held on January 13th, and attached an agenda for that meeting, which did not include the purposes for which the committee members requested the special meeting in writing on December 2nd. And again, we talked about this more. We talked about this on the show, one of my more recent ones. I'm doing so many these days. I don't even know if it was last Sunday or more recently than that. But anyway, we went through this in depth. And basically, Robert's Rules is very clear on this. And I've seen Kristina's people just say, oh, it doesn't matter, but that Robert's Rules says you have to have a meeting for the purpose that was called for, because the bylaws were not silent about special meetings. And that's not the way this works, folks. If Robert's, when you say in your bylaws, Robert's Rules applies for anything that is not covered by these bylaws, it means it only doesn't apply if there's disharmony between the rules. Nothing in the bylaws says the chair can call a special meeting that ignores the purposes of the meeting that was petitioned for.
I believe it says in Robert's Rules that If the meeting is, if they go off the, if they change the agenda of the meeting, it would have to be ratified at a later date at another meeting for that business to be germane. But essentially, that would have to be the real state committee, not the ousted state committee. And Kristina, as we've shown, was removed lawfully under the bylaws. Every procedure was meticulously followed. Whether you don't like it after the fact, or Kristina and her crew made strategic miscalculations, telling her people not to go, delegitimizing the meeting, it doesn't matter. It was done lawfully, and you can whine after the fact. But the people who are saying that it wasn't done legally, they're incorrect. And then they went and did the Kristina meeting a week later and broke all kinds of bylaws and rules. So the facts are clear here.
Yeah, Robert's Rules 9:15. The only business that can be transacted at a special meeting is that which has been specified in the call of the meeting. That's the end of it. That's where Karamo's case is lost. Kin Rock on YouTube asks, respectfully, why does Rescue Michigan seem to enjoy this chaos so much in lieu of helping KK out if they have all the answers? Well, Kin, a couple of things. First off, I don't particularly enjoy this chaos. I do enjoy fighting evil, and Kristina Karamo has proven through her actions that she is an evil person. So that's why I'm not trying to help her, because she's a con artist. Because she maybe began with good intentions when she was first elected, and the things that she's done in the past have made me doubt that more and more with every passing day. She's now in total violation of the bylaws, flagrantly lying, flagrantly turning serious financial problems for the party into serious legal problems. This is a con artist's unraveling that we are witnessing. And the sooner this gets buried, the better. The reason why I'm talking about this stuff is because people need to know the truth. And precinct delegates need to know the truth. State committee members need to know the truth, because there's going to be county conventions coming up. And there is a war of narratives. And a lot of people believe Kristina's narrative because media bad, media hate Kristina, therefore Kristina good. And that's not the way this goes. So,
and also a lot of people have reached out, including myself, asking to help the Karamo administration with many different things. People have said, "Oh, how can I get involved? How can I reach out to small businesses to get them on board?" Because you were supposedly going to raise $50 million from small businesses, and then you wouldn't need the Wiser big money or Big money or whoever big money, because you were going to get all these small businesses. People reached out, said, "How can I help?" They were completely shut off. They were not responded to. People asked, how can I get involved with this Good Neighbor program? Give me more information. I want to reach out to people. They never received any response from that. So there's countless people who have done that, who have reached out, who have tried to help, but because of incompetence or because of paranoia or all the above, malevolence, all the above, they were never responded to. So the Karamo administration was completely walled off for whatever reason, and it just got weirder and weirder as time went on. And by the time they filed that insane, frivolous lawsuit against the trust and against Comerica, that was when I think more people realized we have to put an end to this administration before we're completely buried and ruined in 2024. So that's what happened. People have tried to help; they were shut out, and now this is
not an administration that could file lawsuits for election integrity because they have no money. Anyway, I'm going to skip over some of this stuff because I don't want to go late tonight, and we have this plus a request for a restraining order against Kristina. We'll look at that in a second here. But basically, they're just saying everything we do is by the bylaws. We've been over this on previous streams. They did not call the meeting that was requested, that was petitioned for. Tim Ross says, couldn't even recognize me during the December 2nd when you had my hand up for 3 hours. Good. Yeah. What a rotten person she is. Increased concerns regarding Ms. Karamo's leadership. I'm only going to read the fun parts, guys. After the foregoing proposal and request for special meeting was submitted, tensions among the committee escalated even further when Ms. Karamo's contumacious acts in Hillsdale County Republican Executive Committee versus Darren Wisely et al. Resulted not only in a fine for the committee, but also a liability for the committee for attorney's fees in that case. And of course, that is, I'm sorry, this is the This is the Kalamazoo case. This is the Hillsdale case. And that's the complaint. Oh, I thought I had it pulled up. I guess I don't have it handy. Well, we did on another stream. But anyway, yeah. So that term, that was in the judge's order. Contumacious acts, which means like willfully, deliberately ignoring a judge. Yeah, Exhibit 6, order for contempt of court, issued December 28th, case number yada yada. Shortly thereafter, members of the committee became concerned that the committee and its individual members could face further sanctions for Ms. Karamo's improper filing of a potentially frivolous lawsuit seeking a declaration that the committee's former headquarters building, which Ms. Karamo herself had previously described to the committee as being owned by the Michigan Republican Party Trust, was actually owned by the committee. So very funny how they got that in there to talk about this other case. But it's a fair point. And honestly, folks, I mean, seriously, these state committee members who are standing by Kristina are fucking fools, because she's getting them into legal financial problems that if this is not put a stop to very, very quickly by Pete Hoekstra and by Mike Bishop, if they don't extricate the party from these issues, they are in for a nightmare that they do not understand what's coming their way. Depositions. You know, you're going to go to deposition without a lawyer. That's not a good idea, because you might incriminate yourself if you don't know what you're doing. How much money it costs? Do you think the state committee is going to be representing you? They can't. They couldn't if they wanted to, and they don't. I mean, honestly, it is shocking to me that any member of the state committee would stand by Kristina as she is putting them in legal jeopardy. But anyway, this goes on. So, okay, now we get to more technical things. Quorum, and again, this is basic stuff. We've been over this a number of times, but this is an important thing to go over once again, because apparently, and let me see if I can find this. I saw this. Yeah, here we go. Let me pull this up on my screen here. People filed a bunch of these as if it does anything. I don't know why, but there is this page on the MIGOP's stolen website that says affidavits regarding illegitimate January 20th, 2024 gathering of state committee members. Let's see what these brilliant affidavits say, shall we? Here's one. Notary Christopher Kent. This person is Angela Gilisi, and she says, as a MIGOP officer, vice chair, or regular member, no one is authorized to use my name or my position as a stand-in or has the right to appoint anyone into my seat in an effort to establish quorum or for any vote of any kind at the fraudulent and improperly called alleged state committee meeting scheduled for January 20th, signed by Angela Gillis.
But I mean, I just don't understand how are these notarized documents supposed to undo the bylaws, which say that, you know, a district chair can assign a proxy if no one is there.
Yeah, this is their attitude. My saying it makes it so. I declare you have no authority to appoint a proxy for me. Well, the bylaws say you do. So, whoops. But this goes on, and these are all more or less the same. Although some of these are different. Let's see, that one's blurry. Here's a funny one. Signed by Darlene Dotzel. My congressional chair, having engaged in fraudulent voting practices using my name and position in the past, is hereby noticed that they are not authorized to use my name or my position as a duly elected MIGOP state committee member or delegate, nor does any proxy that my chair or anyone else might attempt to appoint to help establish quorum or for any vote of any kind at the fraudulent and improperly called alleged state committee meeting scheduled for January 20th. Okay, well, the actual question is, what do the state party bylaws say? And we can pull those up real quick. Let's see here. Bylaws of the Michigan Republican State Committee. When a district member has not provided a proxy. If a district member is not present for a particular meeting and has not provided for a proxy, the district chairman, or in his absence, the remaining members present from the absent member's congressional district may select a registered voter from their congressional district to fill the vacancy for that meeting only. If the absent member should subsequently appear during the course of the meeting, said regular member shall regain full voting rights. I don't see anything in there about you being able to prohibit someone from appointing a proxy, because it's not there. It's not there at all. The district chair appoints whoever they please, and if they're not there, the remaining members from the committee, from the district, can appoint a proxy. That's all there is to it, folks.
Yeah, I think the point of the affidavits or whatever is to paint normal, mundane actions allowed under the bylaws as some sort of nefarious illegal conspiracy.
Yeah,
probably unfortunately will be used in future junk lawsuits to drag different state committee members in the dirt and drag them through the system and force money out of their pockets because of they're on the opposition to Kristina. Yeah. That seems to be the MO here.
Yeah. Jason says she was mad because her proxy didn't vote her away. All you had to do was show up. If you think the meeting was illegal, you still could have showed up and voted for whoever you wanted to be there.
That's what Dan Hartman did.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could have voted for Lena Epstein for chair if they chose to. They didn't. Oh, well. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Anyway, so there's no reason to go through all this note for note, but the point is they're citing everything to the bylaws. The bylaws say this, here's what we did. The bylaws say this, here's what we did. And accordingly, the bylaws were amended, the new bylaws were adopted. Under the bylaws, we did this. And on 2:54 p.m., we made a motion to remove Karamo as chair. 40 of the 45 members present and voting removed Karamo. That's 88.8%, i.e. more than the 60% required by the current bylaws and even above the prior threshold of 75%. Under either version of the bylaws, Ms. Karamo was removed as chair by the requisite vote of the committee. And then it goes on about Melinda Pago, pointing out that she is the acting chair because that's what the bylaws say. And now Kristina refuses to concede her removal. She refused to accept her proper removal as chair or relinquish any control of the committee. Publicly speaking about her refusal, claiming the meeting was illegitimate and she is still the chair. She still holds herself out as chair, indicating for the first time that her special meeting would include... Okay, so this is another interesting fact. On January 9th, Ms. Karamo, still holding herself out to be the chair of the committee, indicated for the first time that her special meeting would include one of the purposes of the special meeting called for on December 2nd, which is an obvious, pathetic attempt to legitimize the meeting that doesn't negate January 6th and also does not cover all the meeting topics. So on January 13th, she improperly and without authority purported to hold a special meeting of the committee. Only her supporters attended this illegal and improper meeting where they purported to vote for Ms. Karamo to remain chair, as well as to remove Ms. Pago and 6 other members of the committee, banning them from being affiliated with the Michigan Republican Party for 5 years. Such an action is not permitted under these circumstances under either the bylaws or the Michigan election law. Oops. Ms. Karamo's refusal to allow the committee and the MRP to move forward, particularly with an election cycle rapidly approaching, requires swift judicial intervention. The 13 congressional district caucuses that make up the Michigan Republican Party will convene for conventions on March 2nd. So they're saying, Judge, please, this is urgent. Get to it. Delegates are going to county conventions in 83 counties. They occur on the same date, the same time. Require county chairs to report the committee results of the delegate selection, presently scheduled for February 15th at 7 p.m. All this business is happening. We need to know. We need to know right away. What's the story? There simply cannot be 2 competing chairs of the committee or 2 separate factions, each claiming to be the committee. So count 1. Declaratory judgment. Under the court rules, a case of actual controversy exists. This court may declare the rights and other legal relations of an interested party seeking declaratory judgment, whether or not other relief is sought or granted. There is an actual controversy regarding whether Ms. Karamo was properly removed as chair and whether Ms. Pago is the legally recognized acting chair of the Michigan Republican State Committee. Count 2, breach of contract. As noted above, bylaws constitute a binding contractual agreement between an organization and its members. By the conduct described above, Ms. Karamo failed to comply with the bylaws. Oh, footnote, and this is from earlier here. This is a footnote before the counts. And again, stressing the urgency. The events described herein are happening in real time. With each passing day, Ms. Karamo's actions cause more disruption within the Michigan Republican Party and more confusion among the committee members, precinct delegates, and indeed the general public about who is the chair of the committee. Plaintiffs, the media's got it wrong. Saw MLive's story, says they're still calling her chair. Plaintiffs intend to amend this verified complaint as a matter of course under MCR court rules within 14 days as additional facts become known. Ms. Karamo's failure to comply with the bylaws constitutes a breach of contract. As a result of the breach, plaintiffs' rights under the bylaws have been impaired. Relief requested. We seek a declaratory judgment that the December 16th meeting notice issued by Ms. Karamo did not constitute the call to a special meeting, that the call to a special meeting for January 6th was proper, that the January 6th special meeting called and attended by plaintiffs was properly held, that a quorum was present, that a petition removing Karamo as chair was properly submitted to the secretary, that the bylaws amendment was properly passed, that Karamo was removed, that Pega was the acting chair, and vested with all power, duty, authorities, and responsibilities attendant thereto, as will any duly appointed or elected successor, Hoekstra, and all actions that Ms. Karamo has taken after being removed on January 6th, including but not limited to any meetings she has called and held, as in the 13th, are void and have no force or effect. Respectfully submitted Jonathan Lauterbach and Troy Cummings and Catherine Boothroyd. There you go. Attorneys for the plaintiff.
My only thought is that, what are the odds that the courts and the RNC fuck this up even worse? Very possible. So
certainly possible.
Out of the woods yet.
You never know for sure. I would be shocked if the RNC would not weigh in favor of the plaintiffs. In fact, I bet dollars to donuts the RNC is all over this, and they're just waiting for their right moment to spring. As to the judge, you never know. You never know what judge you're going to get. But this is a very well-argued case to be as airtight as possible, because it's the thing that distinguishes this from the Kalamazoo case is that the entire thing we just read through, all it says is, this is what the bylaws say. The bylaws are a contract. Here's how we follow the contract. And what is Dan Hartman going to say? If Dan Hartman's her lawyer, it's her lawyer. He doesn't have to be. She might need to hire a lawyer to represent herself in this case, or she might get defaulted. But if she hires a lawyer or Dan Hartman shows up, what do you think Dan Hartman's going to say in response to this? A bunch of retarded garbage. And the judge can look at this and go, no, this is a serious law firm that dots its I's and crosses its T's very carefully. One more thing that was also filed on Friday, by the way. This is a request for a restraining order against Kristina Karamo. And no need to read through it because it's almost entirely the same as the other thing. You'll see there's so much that's the same. But they're moving for a temporary restraining order and an order to show cause why a preliminary injunction should not be entered pursuant to the court rules. This is basically saying, Your Honor, this case could take a long time. We need a decision now that we are likely to win, and this has to be resolved. Give us a restraining order saying that Kristina is not the chair. And it's a way to expedite the process. You have to make a stronger showing than you normally would. But here's what they say. We want a temporary restraining order prohibiting Kristina Karamo and any other persons acting in concert or participation with her to refrain from holding herself out as chair of the state party, calling any meeting of the state party, accessing any bank accounts held by the state party, accessing any PO boxes held by the state party, conducting or attempting to conduct any business as the state party, and determining that Melinda Pago is acting chair. That'll be updated, I'm sure, because it's now Pete Hoekstra. Directing Ms. Karamo to show cause as to why the relief requested above should not be converted into a preliminary injunction during the pendency of this action. Again, the arguments are basically the same. The facts are all going to be the same. This is all basically a repeat of what we just read through. But they have to show this this four-pronged test here. First, they have to show they're likely to win. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to say we're likely to win. That's first prong, because everything we say is smart and everything Dan Hartman says is stupid. Secondly, the next thing is plaintiffs will suffer irreparable harm if a preliminary injunction is not issued, meaning the longer this crap goes on, the more it damages the actual chair of the state party and the state committee itself. They will, and I don't know if they say in here, talking about that lawsuit they're trying to withdraw from. Plaintiffs have suffered and will continue to suffer irreparable injury if the court is not granted its motion. Here, despite Karamo's refusal, she refuses to relinquish control of the state party. Each day, she continues to purport to exercise control of the committee. She prevents the actual leadership of the committee from governing or preparing for fast approaching major events this election year, such as the imminent county Republican conventions and the Michigan Republican State Convention. If she's not enjoined, she will continue to impede the operations of the committee. Moreover, allowing Ms. Karamo's actions to continue denies members of the committee their choice of party leadership. Third thing, The harm plaintiffs will suffer if a preliminary injunction is not issued outweighs the harm to Karamo. Because without a preliminary injunction, we are unable to take control of the committee while Ms. Karamo continues to disrupt the operations of the committee. Indeed, she has spoken publicly about her refusal, claiming the meeting was illegitimate, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if the injunction is issued, Ms. Karamo will suffer little, if any, harm. The facts show that she was properly moved as chair, therefore she has no right to continue acting as chair. That's kind of a, well, the court will determine the validity of that. But this is the way these four-pronged TRO claims always have to go. They always just say, we're going to win, and we're going to be harmed if we're not going to win, so we need to win. And so finally, it says the public interest will not be harmed if the preliminary injunction is issued. Lastly, the public interest will not be harmed if the injunction is issued. If anything, Ms. Karamo being allowed to continue to disrupt the operations of the committee would harm the public interest. Permitting Ms. Karamo to stay in power during this controversy would flout the very idea of democracy and the rule of law. Moreover, not enjoining Ms. Karamo could erode trust in our political systems. The public interest would only benefit from the issuance of a preliminary injunction, and therefore this court should grant the plaintiff's motion. So there you go. And they also make the point they will suffer injury if a TRO is not issued for all the reasons. And again, this is more or less the same thing we've read before. So conclusions, Judge, please issue an order to stop Kristina from even being allowed to call herself the chair of the party. And, well, we saw what happened in Hillsdale, where she just ignored the judge's order. So this may happen again. And that's, by the way, one of the reasons why that lawyer, Jonathan Lauterbach, so artfully put that Hillsdale thing into his pleadings, because, hey, judge, by the way, this has happened before. So anyway,
can you pull up Stephen Gothel's comment?
Yeah, I was going to read some chats before we close the show. That's the one he just posted just now.
No, the one above that.
Okay, we'll come back to that one, Steve. Okay, he says, proxies are designed to put forth the vote of a person unable to attend due to unforeseen circumstances. Proxies should not be used in a way that goes against the wishes of the person whose name is being used. Well, Stephen, let me tell you about a proxy in my county. We have a state committee member in my county who didn't show up. And despite her wishes, a proxy was appointed to vote. Now, let me ask you, Stephen, what about my rights as a member of the Republican Party? Because this was a properly called meeting, and it was a meeting to vote for who the next chair would be. And my state committee member chose not to show up. So let me ask you, how is it fair that my county is not properly represented at the state committee level? I would say she had a duty to show up, which she didn't do. She could have appointed someone to vote her way. She didn't do that either. So what's my remedy? My remedy is my district appoints a proxy because she didn't show up. Therefore, we still are entitled to representation on the state party. So the people who showed up got to appoint a proxy. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, and it's just bad strategy on the Karamo people. They thought by having their people not show up and by threatening lawsuits and coercion and whatever else they were trying to do, that they could stop the meeting from having a quorum and sink the January 6th meeting entirely. They calculated wrong. So the fact that they miscalculated doesn't mean that proxies shouldn't be used by the district chairs or whatever. They should have talked to the people who didn't show up. But the people who didn't show up, they weren't dignifying the meeting. A lot of them weren't dignifying the meeting. They were saying that it was illegitimate. They wouldn't participate in it at all. So what other choice did the district chairs have other than to assign their own proxies? So it was all on the up and up. And that may be your opinion that, proxies should not be used in a way that goes against the wishes of a person whose name is being used. But, that's just your opinion. It doesn't say anything about that in the bylaws. So the bylaws are neutral on that topic. So they can, the district chairs can choose whoever they want. And so they did. And then they followed the bylaws. They achieved proxy and they removed Kristina lawfully. Yep.
Nicole Sable on Facebook says, none of my District 4 members showed at today's meeting or at January 6th. Where was my representation? My voice was silenced. Yep. Oh, well, by the way, we'll talk more about today's meeting tomorrow night. I want to talk about these cases first because that's already a lot of material. We will have more guests on tomorrow night to talk about what happened over in Lansing today. Stephen Gothal also says, and you would appoint a proxy that does not vote in your favor? No, Stephen, every one of these members had the ability to appoint their own proxies. They opted not to. you can appoint your own proxy. But if you fail to, it's in the bylaws too, by the way. They say if you do not show up to a meeting, you can appoint a proxy. But if you don't, then the district chair can. So this was a power they had and that they surrendered voluntarily. Stephen also says, I choose morals over bylaws. Well, that's like, I mean, seriously? So much for that rule of law stuff. Kelly Powell says today is a good day. Yes. Yeah, look, folks, and by the way, seriously, to all Kristina Karamo supporters out there watching this right now, if you want to succeed, you should follow the rules, because ultimately the rules win. That's the way that goes. The reason why Kristina lost, the reason why she was expelled from the chairmanship, is because her people decided they didn't have to follow the rules and they could just ignore the meeting call. And this is where they're at now. So had they shown up, none of this would have happened.
Can you read oh yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, I was gonna read this one. What's Rescue Michigan's position if a majority, 60% plus of MIG supporters still want MIGOP supporters still want Kristina Karamo? Does Rescue Michigan / opponents still say no? Then KK supporters won't help going forward. 60% plus is still fractured. Well, a couple of things to this point, Ken. First off, how do we actually know? Like, one of the things that I've found fascinating is I hear from KK's people all the time that the precinct delegates elected her, which is not even true. The state delegates did. And that was after she didn't get majority, but on the third round, she finally got to majority as the runoff progressed. Secondly, just because she was elected in last February does not mean that she still enjoys this level of support. I voted for her on the third ballot. I would never do that again. Although I stand by my vote, by the way, given the circumstances. But people voted for Kristina because she promised them the world, that she was going to raise $50 million, going to change the way things were done, we're going to unify the party, and all the rest. She didn't do any of that. She did the opposite of that.
Yeah, just because the delegates were sold a bill of goods doesn't mean that they're still on board, or that the state committee needs to continue on with this cruel scam because the delegates had Kristina misrepresented herself in what she was able to accomplish to them last year. We're not going to be held hostage to that, nor should we. And what do you mean by MIGOP supporters anyway? Do you mean duly elected precinct delegates, or do you mean Republicans throughout the state?
Republican voters.
A lot of Republican voters out there are seeing all this mayhem and they're embarrassed by it. They're seeing the wackiness of the Karamo administration. They're embarrassed by it. So are we kowtowing to precinct delegates, or do we want to have the general public, Republicans, independents, moderates who are getting disaffected with Democrat policies? Do we want them to support the Republican Party, or are we just catering to this echo chamber of people who are being fed propaganda by Karamo and others nonstop? I mean, we have to look at our priorities here.
Let's say everything. Let's assume if a vote was held today of all Republicans in Michigan to support Kristina Karamo, and 60% said they support Kristina Karamo, well, then we're fucked as a state. That's all there is to it, guys. I mean, seriously, if the majority of Republicans support a con artist to be state chair, who's already shown she can't raise money, who is now in the process of legally destroying the party, committing bank fraud, for crying out loud, then we're done. Then the thing to do is to flee. The thing to do is to flee the state. That's what your solution is at that point. That's the way that is. Anyway, I see what looks like some crosstalk in the chat. Maybe I'm missing something. So Shane, if there's anything else you see in the chat I should talk about, let me know. I do see on Rumble, Dennis Marburger says, thank you for sharing this important info. You guys do good work. Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate it.
You're the man, Dennis.
Otherwise, Jason Mickelborg says, KK wants delegates to choose commissioners, mayors, etc. That's not the delegate's job. Yeah, we talked about that on the stream the other day too. Kinrock says, all right, I'm packing my bags already. Stephen Gothal says, I'm not backing anyone choosing sides. Morals rule, the bylaws obviously need to be changed. Well, okay, but they are what they are for right now. So there you go.
And I'd like to add, as a kind of a final thought, that Pete Hoekstra was elected by the state committee the new chair today. I don't have the pom-poms out for Pete. You know, you can go back and look at his record and stuff that he supported as a congressman, Patriot Act, NAFTA, a lot of things that were bad especially during the Bush administration. He was completely on board for, and he was a member of the lead of the Intelligence Committee or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So
chair of the House Intelligence Committee.
Yeah. So this is a guy who was, you know, an establishment Republican going back. So I don't have the pom-poms out for him, but at the same time, this is someone who is going to be able to raise money. He's going to be ostensibly pro-Trump. He was in the Trump administration. He is personally, you know, incentivized by helping Trump because he'd be angling for a position in the new administration. So this is someone who will be able to raise money and put it behind Trump, and there's no reason to believe that he'll be sabotaging Trump in that position. So that is a step forward. Hopefully next year in 2025, we can put forward someone who is grassroots, who is solid, who is, you know, a patriot, who has America first bona fides, but can raise money and won't be out there embarrassing us all, shooting ourselves in the foot, dividing us, and causing this kind of freak show, sideshow effect like Kristina has. So that's what we have to work toward. You know, Pete Hoekstra is just a stopgap. And then next year we can put forward someone who is credible and America first and can raise money and do the things we need to do. So let's look at it as a step forward. And hopefully we can minimize the damage that's been caused over the past year by Kristina and her acolytes.
Yeah, I'll talk more about the chair race tomorrow. Kin Rock says, thank you for responding. Hey, man, happy to respond to constructive criticism. I'm not afraid to do that. I did ban someone today who just wrote, you guys are idiots. That's the way that goes. Stephen Gothal says, Peter Hoekstra, Peter Meyer. What about them? They're two different people. I mean, is this the way we operate? Oh, they have the same first name. They're the same person. Whatever. Matt Wilkes says, hello, gentlemen. Matt, I'm sorry you caught the tail end of the show. You might have been a great guest to have on to go through that lawsuit we just did, but oh well. W Math says there is still the issue of everyone not named KK who want this change. Wait, huh? Everyone not named KK? I don't quite follow. Whatever. All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us. Kelly Powell says we need door knockers. Yes. Tomorrow we will have our regular weekly live stream. Probably more guests. Probably more discussion. Certainly more talking about what happened today in Lansing. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in. Shane, thanks for joining me as always. And until next time, thanks for all you guys. Oh, if you like this kind of content, by the way, hit that like and subscribe button. I always forget to say that. And as always, guys, thanks for all you do for liberty. Peace out.